Have you ever looked at your raised garden bed and wondered what was happening beneath the surface? We spend so much time thinking about sunlight, water, and the plants we can see. We choose the prettiest flowers and the tastiest vegetables. But the real magic, the secret to a truly thriving garden, is happening underground. It is a hidden world of activity that makes all the difference. Many new gardeners think that building a great garden is complicated. They worry about fancy fertilizers and difficult techniques. I am here to tell you a little secret. The best gardens are often the simplest ones, built on a foundation of healthy living soil, and you can create that very easily. Today, I want to share one of my favorite tricks for kickstarting life in a new raised bed. It's a simple, cheap, and almost instant way to invite nature's best gardeners to come and work for you. The secret is cornmeal. Before we talk about how to attract them, let's get to know our garden helpers a little better. Who are these underground allies? They are earthworms, of course. You have probably seen them wiggling on the sidewalk after a good rain. Maybe you found one while digging in the dirt. These simple, slimy creatures are one of the most valuable assets you can have in your garden. They are much more than just fish bait. They are tiny, tireless farmers who work for free. They are nature's plows, turning and mixing the soil day and night, making it better for your plants in ways that we could never replicate on our own. Think of earthworms as the engineers of your garden soil. They create a vast network of tunnels as they move around. These tunnels are incredibly important for your plants. They act like tiny channels, allowing air to get down deep into the soil. Plant roots need oxygen to breathe, just like we do. These tunnels also help water soak in more easily. Instead of running off the surface, rain and water from your hose can travel down these worm tunnels, delivering moisture directly to the roots of your plants. Earthworms are also the ultimate recyclers. They eat their way through the soil, consuming decaying organic matter. This includes things like old leaves, dead roots, and tiny microorganisms. What comes out the other end is pure garden gold. These excretions are called worm castings, and they are one of the best natural fertilizers you can get. Now, we know that worms are fantastic for our gardens, but what makes a garden fantastic for worms? To invite them in, we need to understand what they are looking for. Earthworms have some basic needs, just like any other living thing. They need food, moisture, and shelter. If you can provide these three things, they will happily call your raised bed home. Luckily, a well-maintained garden naturally provides all of these things. Your job is simply to make your garden as welcoming as possible, like rolling out a tiny red carpet for your wiggly guests. It's about creating an environment where they can thrive and multiply. First and foremost, worms need food. Their diet consists of organic matter. This is anything that was once living. It includes fallen leaves, grass clippings, leftover vegetable scraps from your kitchen, and old plant roots. When you add compost or mulch to your garden, you are essentially setting out a buffet for them. Next, worms need moisture. Their bodies are mostly made of water, and they breathe through their skin. To do this, their skin must stay moist. If the soil dries out completely, worms will either die or be forced to burrow deep down to find moisture. This is why consistent watering is so important, not just for your plants, but for the worms too. So, how do we get this whole wonderful process started, especially in a brand new raised bed? A new bed might be filled with great soil mix and compost, but it can take time for worms from the surrounding ground to find it. We need to send out a special invitation. This is where our secret ingredient comes into play. As I mentioned earlier, the magic ingredient is simple cornmeal. It sounds almost too easy to be true, but this humble pantry staple is incredibly effective at attracting earthworms to a specific area. Why does cornmeal work so well? Earthworms are attracted to foods that are beginning to decompose. They especially love things that encourage the growth of beneficial bacteria and fungi, which are a primary part of their diet. When you sprinkle cornmeal on the soil and add a little bit of water, it starts to break down very quickly. This process of decomposition releases a scent and creates a microbial feast that worms can detect from surprisingly far away. It's like baking fresh bread in your kitchen. The wonderful smell drifts through the house and brings everyone to the kitchen. The cornmeal does the same thing for the worms in your yard. Using cornmeal is like setting up a welcome station for them. It tells them, "The food here is great. Come on over." Worms in the soil under and around your raised bed will sense this new, rich food source and start migrating toward it. This helps to colonize your new bed with a healthy population of worms much faster than would happen naturally. You are essentially fast-tracking the process of building a living, healthy soil ecosystem. It is a simple, organic, and very inexpensive way to give your garden a huge head start. Are you ready to invite the worms to your garden party? Well, the process is incredibly simple. You don't need any special tools or equipment at all. All you need is a box of plain cornmeal and a watering can or maybe a hose. The best time to do this is when you have just filled your raised bed with soil, before you have planted all of your seedlings. First, get your cornmeal. You want to use plain, simple cornmeal. It doesn't matter if it's yellow or white. Just make sure it does not have any other ingredients mixed in, like sugar or salt, which you might find in a cornbread mix. You want just pure ground corn. You don't need a huge amount. For a standard 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed, about 1 or 2 cups of cornmeal is plenty to get started. Next, it's time to sprinkle. Take your cornmeal and lightly scatter it over the entire surface of the soil in your raised bed. You are aiming for a very light, even dusting, almost like you are sprinkling powdered sugar on a cake. A fine, even layer across the top of the soil is much more effective. This ensures that the scent is released over a wide area, attracting worms from all directions. Finally, you need to water it in. This is the most important step. The cornmeal needs moisture to start the decomposition process that attracts the worms. After you have sprinkled the cornmeal, take your watering can or a hose with a gentle spray setting and water the entire bed. You want to moisten the soil and the cornmeal thoroughly. The water will carry the cornmeal down into the top inch or so of the soil and activate it. This begins the process of creating the microbial feast that the worms find so irresistible. Now, all you have to do is wait for your guests to arrive. After you have sprinkled your cornmeal and watered it in, the waiting game begins. But, don't worry, you won't have to wait very long to start seeing results. Gardening teaches us patience, but this is one trick that offers rewards fairly quickly. The speed at which worms arrive depends on a few things, like how many worms are already living in the ground near your raised bed. In most cases, you can expect worms to start investigating their new food source within a few days to a week. The first signs will be subtle. You might not see a huge swarm of worms on the surface right away. Remember, they are underground creatures. The best way to check for their arrival is to gently dig into the top few inches of your soil with a small hand trowel or even just your fingers. After about a week, carefully turn over a small patch of soil. You will likely be greeted by 1 or 2 curious earthworms who have moved in. Seeing them is a wonderful sign that your invitation was received and that they are starting to explore their new home and dining area. Over the next few weeks, you should notice a steady increase in the worm population. Every time you dig a little hole to plant a new seedling, you will probably find more and more of them. You will also start to notice changes in the soil itself. The soil will start to look darker and more crumbly. It will hold moisture better. This is the result of the worms tunneling and leaving their nutrient-rich castings behind. Your soil will begin to develop what gardeners call a good tilth, meaning it has a wonderful, loamy, and workable texture that is just perfect for plant roots to grow through. Don't be discouraged if you don't see hundreds of worms overnight. Building a healthy soil ecosystem is a process, not a single event. The cornmeal is the catalyst that starts the process. By continuing to provide a good home for them, their population will naturally grow and stabilize over the course of the gardening season. Your patience will be rewarded with a beautiful and bountiful garden built on a foundation of living soil. Attracting the worms to your raised bed with cornmeal is a fantastic first step. It's kind of like throwing a great housewarming party. But to keep your new residents happy and productive, you need to be a good host. You need to continue providing the things they need to thrive. The most important thing you can do is to keep feeding them. Remember, worms eat organic matter. The best way to provide a steady food supply is to use mulch. Applying a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch on top of your soil is one of the best things you can do for your garden. You can use shredded leaves, straw, grass clippings, as long as they are from a lawn that hasn't been treated with chemicals, or aged wood chips. This layer of mulch slowly breaks down, providing a constant feast for the worms. It also helps to keep the soil moist and cool, which they love. Consistent moisture is also key. As we discussed, worms need damp soil to survive. You don't want to drown them by overwatering, but you should never let your raised bed dry out completely. Check the soil regularly by sticking your finger in a few inches deep. If it feels dry, it's time to water. Watering deeply and less frequently is better than a light sprinkle every day. This encourages plant roots to grow deeper and ensures the moisture gets down into the worm's territory. The mulch you added will help tremendously with this, acting like a lid to prevent the sun from baking the moisture out of your soil. Finally, try to disturb the soil as little as possible. This is often called no-till or no-dig gardening. Every time you turn the soil over with a big shovel or a tiller, you are destroying the delicate network of tunnels the worms have worked so hard to build. Instead of tilling, simply add new layers of compost and mulch to the top of the soil each season. The worms will do the work of mixing it in for you. When you need to plant, just dig a small hole for your plant rather than disturbing the whole bed. This gentle approach protects the soil structure and the creatures that call it home. As you can see, you don't need a lot of money or complicated tools to create a fantastic garden. Sometimes, the most powerful solutions are the simplest ones. By using a little bit of cornmeal from your kitchen, you can perform a small act of garden magic. You can send out an invitation to the unseen world beneath your feet and welcome in an army of tiny helpers. These earthworms will work tirelessly to build you the rich, fertile, living soil that is the foundation of any successful garden. It is a beautiful partnership between you, your plants, and the creatures of the earth. Remember that building a great garden is a journey, not a destination. Each season, your soil will get a little bit better. The worm population will become more established. The ecosystem in your raised bed will become more resilient and self-sufficient. By taking these simple steps, sprinkling cornmeal, adding mulch, watering wisely, and disturbing the soil less, you are creating a legacy of health in your garden. You are not just growing vegetables for this year, you are building a foundation for amazing harvests for many years to come. This is the true joy of sustainable gardening. Don't ever feel intimidated or think that you don't have a green thumb. Everyone can learn to be a good gardener. The key is to be observant, to be patient, and to learn to work with nature. Pay attention to the signs your garden gives you. The presence of earthworms is one of the best signs you can ask for. Celebrate every worm you find as a tiny trophy for your gardening success. So, go ahead and give it a try. Grab that box of cornmeal and head out to your raised bed. Perform this simple, secret sprinkle and watch what happens. You have the power to transform a simple box of dirt into a thriving, living ecosystem. You are not just a gardener, you are a caretaker of the soil and a magician who can bring it to life. Trust in these simple, natural processes, and you will be amazed at the beautiful, delicious results you can achieve. Happy gardening, and may your beds be ever full of worms.